Let's go back 1 year ago, or 453 days ago to be exact. I was sitting right here on this couch, well, not this exact same couch because we got an upgraded spot to sit, but still here in the same apartment. I was 24 years old, I had $35,000 in my bank account, I was working from home in my 9-to-5 HR data analytics job, and I was telling you guys how Den and I had the goal to become millionaires by 30 years old. Now, back to the present, I'm still sitting here, but our path has actually changed up pretty significantly, and so has our progress towards that goal and the other goals that we said we wanted to hit by 32. What I find interesting about goals in general is that sometimes it can have this really heavy pressure or this almost negativity around them if it doesn't look like you're on path to hit or surpass your goals every single moment. But something that we've said even in that original video is that we're flexible on the path to hit our goals. We have this big overarching goal that we want to reach, but at the same time, the way that we're going to get there, if different opportunities come up, we're going to jump on those too, and we've definitely seen some changes. So why did we set this goal in the first place? Because really the exact number of $1 million isn't the most important part. It's more that $1 million represents building wealth and trying to do it as early as we can too. It's kind of like it's the bigger picture, and then everything else that we do end up doing over the next 4 or 5 years, it's leading towards that overarching goal that we have for ourselves. And the reason that it's important to us to build wealth too and to do it as early as we can is because it means freedom, it means having time, it means having financial security in the future, and it also means that you can give back to the people around us too.
All right, so I gotta jump in here for a second because talking about all of this kind of reminds me of back when I was in high school, when me and some of my friends declared that we were going to be millionaires by age 25, hands down. Now, not necessarily impossible, obviously it didn't happen, but basically we had no plan as to how we were actually gonna get there. It kind of just sounded like something nice or cool to say, you know? So now, what's the difference between me and Steph saying that we want to be millionaires by 30 now? Well, it's the simple fact that we actually have a plan in place. When we had originally set that goal, we were making some really great salaries in our corporate 9-to-5 jobs. We were both making $78,000 and $72,000 each at age 25 and 26. And given the fact that we were actually able to save and invest 60 to 70% of that income, we were on a good trajectory to actually hitting our success and hitting our stride. And we would have continued to be successful had we stayed in our jobs a lot longer. But then there was this shift where we realized that the income potential of us working for ourselves came with a much larger financial impact, but it was also coupled with more risk. So let's look at it like this for a second. Let's say I'd stayed working in my 9-to-5 job for the next 4 to 5 years, right? Keep in mind, I had already grown my salary by about $30,000 in just under 3 years. So let's say in 4 to 5, I'd grown it by $50,000. Realistic, but I would say also on the higher side, right? That would mean that my income would be $130,000 by age 30. Now, if I was continuing to save about 60% of my income, by age 30, I'd have $300,000 in savings and investments. And keep in mind, that's what I'd be able to contribute. So honestly, not bad at all, and we totally could have stuck with that path.
Now, what I think is really nice about working for ourselves is that we have that possibility of the income growing more and more every year. Now, there's kind of two sides to it. In a way, you have less control, and in a way, you have more. When you're working in the corporate space, or at least for us in our corporate roles, you can put a ton of effort in. You can constantly be working harder and putting so much more effort in, basically, and you won't necessarily see that return in your salary or your income growing. Even if you have a huge salary increase based on the role and what they actually allow in the salary band, there's still a cap on that and only so much that you can do to make that income grow. And again, it's probably going to actually involve a lot more effort on your part consistently over a long time, active effort, to see that salary go up. Whereas when you're working for yourself, there's still a lot of risk involved, and you can't guarantee yourself that you're going to have any income coming in theory, but you know that there's that possibility of it going up and up and up and up without having that same cap. Now, it's actually been interesting for us because we've only been self-employed for like 4 or 5 months now. And it's tough because in your head, you're thinking, oh, I'm working really hard, so things should be exploding. When that's not always how it goes. Growth is going to be up and down. It's not going to be exactly linear or what you expect. But again, we really do believe that as much work as we put into it, that's what we're going to see as a return in the longer term. You just got to keep pushing through it. So for us, if we actually take a look at the numbers, what's our goal for this year? Where we really want to start out in our first full year self-employed. Again, last year was only about 3 months or so that we were doing that. So for this year, for our first full year self-employed, our goal is to basically match the salaries that we had in our 9-to-5s. So that's about $75,000 each. Then from there, our goal is to see that income increase a lot more than it would year to year in our 9-to-5 jobs. So again, if you kind of look at that, we're obviously taking a year where we're not going to be going up in income. It's going to be holding steady, or at least that's the goal. Who knows what's going to happen? But then from there, our ideal state would be for the income to double or at least grow substantially year over year. Now, if that happens and we're able to also save about that same 60 or so percent that we were saving or investing from our income before, then we'd actually be hitting that millionaire status a lot sooner and pretty close to 30 compared to our 9-to-5 jobs we had before. Now, something else I wanted to touch on that I really learned recently, or I guess over the last year and a half or so, is that obviously money is really important in life. Some people don't have the same focus on it, but overall it's important. It's impacting your day-to-day life. But the way that you get there and the way that you achieve your financial goals can be different for everyone. Like I even said in that last video that I thought I'd be working my 9-to-5 job for a long, long time. And here I am just over a year later. I guess I quit less than a year after that video. I really didn't think that I would a few months before quitting my job. And as much as I really did enjoy my job, and I could have kept doing it for a long time and I would have enjoyed it and kept making and saving money that way, I was also really just scared of jumping in and doing something else. And it felt really nice to realize that I can do something that's more in my control and take this risk and see where it takes me. But again, obviously a lot can change in that year since that video was posted. Let's actually put the clip in here of me saying that I probably won't quit. For me, it's not even about retiring early. I really do like my job. We have tons of videos about that on our channel. I like my field of work and I see myself doing that for a long time. And there we have it. Obviously I did. So hopefully the takeaway there for you all is that there's multiple ways and multiple paths to get to the same end result. You've got to pick the one that's going to be the best for you.
Again, what's weird about growing your wealth and your money is that at first it can feel like you're not really getting anywhere. Like me, for instance. I'd finished paying off my debt, I just started investing, I was gaining a lot of really great traction. And then guess what? We quit our jobs. Now, obviously that was a very purposeful decision and me and Steph just walked you through why it made sense for us. But it really did slow down our trajectory, at least in the short term, for it to then hopefully go back up a lot quicker in the long term. Now, a really great analogy and a really great example that I like to use a lot is the hockey stick analogy, right? So when we're talking about growth, when we're talking about growing your income, growing your wealth, really anything where you have to pour your resources into, so whether it be a business, whether it be, just you learning something, nothing really grows in a linear fashion where it's going like this. For the most part, it's kind of growing slowly. And then ideally, as you're putting more and more resources and effort into it and you're getting better, you want that big swoop, right? Kind of like a hockey stick, right? You want that big swoop at the end where we're then now talking about exponential growth and we're in that specific territory. Now, on top of growing our incomes just to have more money, the reason we really want to grow our incomes is to have more money that we can then invest. Keyword being invest. Now, like we've mentioned before, investing consistently is so important because it's going to be the way that you're going to be able to get the most return out of the money that you actually have. So for us, that's where we're really focusing our efforts into, and that's where we want to continue to take that money that we're getting and then just keep pouring it back into the investments. And once we have more, we're going to continue to pour and pour and pour. We plan to keep investing as much money as we can, and like we said in Steph's example, we're not just going to continue investing just 60% of our income as our income grows, right? Like ideally you want your expenses to remain as low as possible. And instead, as your income grows, you want that percentage that you actually keep to keep rising too. So you want to go from 60 to 70 to 80 to 90%. And you ideally want to be at a point where the amount of money that you're actually living off of is a much smaller amount than the amount that you're actually putting towards your investments. And I do also want to add that for us, we want to put our money into investments that provide us the most passive return that we can get while we're young. Now, you guys know that I recently switched to investing the bulk of my money into a fund called XEQT, and we're gonna have another video coming up soon where I'm gonna dive like super deep into that fund and give you guys the lowdown. But the reason I really like this fund is that it gives you really great diversification. It's low cost, and I would say about 50% of this fund tracks the total US stock market, which we've seen has had some of the strongest year-over-year returns. Now, Steph, on the other hand, she's invested through a robo-advisor and hasn't seen some of the strongest returns. She's had really great returns, but by nature of the robo-advisor, hasn't seen some of the strongest. But she is also now invested completely 100% into equities, which again is really great for the long term, and she has the time to do it. So why not?
Another thing that I wanted to mention that I noticed in that last video where we set these initial financial goals for ourselves is that at the time I was really still in the savings part of my financial journey. So I was still really focused on saving my money and cutting down my expenses, budgeting, all of that. But I knew that I really wanted to start focusing on learning more, being more confident in, and more in control of my investments too. Because like Dennis just covered, that's a huge and super important part to actually growing your wealth and reaching those goals. We're potentially going to make the income of having millions of dollars coming in, but what's more likely to happen is having your investments grow to help you reach those goals. So I knew that was really important, and it's something that I've really been able to focus on over the last year. I'd say goal checked off for me there. It's something that's constantly happening. It's not like I've learned everything there is to learn, and I never will. I'm going to keep learning, keep sharing on here, and keep implementing, but it's something that I feel much more confident in now. So if that's where you are too, you can definitely do it, and it can happen pretty quickly as long as you're focused in on learning more and then reflecting and implementing for yourself. Now, on top of us being focused on growing our income right now and then also having that money to dump into our investments in the stock market, something else that we've always been talking about and we mentioned as a big goal for us, one of the top 3 or 4 goals that we had by the time we're 30 is to also buy and own pieces of real estate too. So basically investing in real estate properties. Now, it's taken a bit of a backseat because instead we ended up quitting our jobs like we've talked about and are really focused on that income generating side first. Again, trying to be flexible on our path. It's definitely still something that we want to do, and we still have some time to get it in there before 30 as well. Now, what's really nice about investing in real estate and something that we like about it is that you can take a relatively small amount of capital, the initial money for a down payment and all of the different costs associated with buying real estate, and then you get this really large asset in return that you can leverage in different ways. You can pull money out of it for different investments. You can continue to buy more homes. You can have cash flow. It depends on the actual approach you want to take. But again, you can use that capital in return for other investments as well and really grow your portfolio. That's the other thing too, is it really grows your net worth pretty quickly because now you own this home. So it depends on how you look at it, but you do have that money to play around with and that higher net worth much more quickly. Now, talking about this really makes me think of the fact that personal finance really is going to be personal to you. It's important for everyone to be investing so that you can grow your money and grow your wealth that way and you're not losing out on returns, but the actual way you go about it is going to be up to you. Now, I just talked about why we like the idea of real estate investing too. It would be a part of our broader portfolio. We'd still be really focused on the stock market as well, but it's something that we like and we think that will help bring our net worth up to that millionaire point a little bit faster too. So that's something that we're focused on. What I also want to reiterate is that we're not exactly focused on the most perfect, optimal financial path to hit exactly $1 million at exactly 30. Now, maybe there isn't even a most perfect optimal path, but what we want is something that's going to get us there as early as we can, but is also more fun, enjoyable, sustainable, and works best for us too. So again, many different paths to get there, and you've already seen us change it up within 1 year of setting that initial goal. So lots of different paths you could keep taking over the next 4 or 5 years too.
All right, so let's summarize all of this and make sure that we're all kind of like on the same page. So basically our plan is to continue growing our income more and more by putting a lot more of our effort into our YouTube channel as well as other social platforms. So, with that being said, make sure you like down below if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe right there in the corner. Helps out the channel a ton. But yeah, basically what we want to do from there is we also want to focus on growing out our multiple income streams, right? That's going to be a really big one for us this year. And then basically from there, what we want to do is we want to take that income that we're making and then dump that back into the stock market. So what we're particularly doing is we're investing in broad market funds with a high concentration in equities. So once again, me and Steph have the long time horizon to really ride out a lot of that risk. So that's for the most part what we're going to be doing. And now this is all happening simultaneously. It isn't like a step 1, step 2 type of thing. But basically once we have all of that in place, what we want to do is we want to then look back into investing in real estate. So that's a topic that we definitely want to revisit once we have the initial capital ready to go. Now, as much as we're flexible on how to make this happen, everything that I just said is basically the big picture overarching plan, right? And for a lot of people, it can be really easy to get distracted, especially as you're learning more. And it can kind of be easy to deviate from the original plan. Ideally for us, what we want to do is we want to stay as focused as we can on the original plan. We want to have fun along the way, but we also want to reassess as things are moving along. Ideally, we don't let lifestyle creep in and just like obliterate the plan. But more or less, that's the plan. Anyways, we hope that you guys liked the video, and hopefully you enjoyed hearing our update on ideally our pathway to becoming millionaires by 30. If you guys have any of your own money goals that you want to share down below, make sure you let us know. We would love to go back and forth and just talk about it, you know? But yeah, make sure you like down below, make sure you subscribe right there in the corner, and if you haven't seen any of our previous videos, make sure you check them out next door. We will be back. You know the vibes. Let's go.